That's a lot of noise coming into these single coil pickups. This is my 1957 reissue Strat built in the late 80s, and I'm sure it has no shielding whatsoever inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some baseline noise measurements, open this thing up, add some shielding, I'll document the process, and then put it back together, and then we'll take some final measurements and see how well we mitigated some noise, if any. Stick around to the end, and we'll see how it goes. The first thing we do is remove the strings. Make sure you loosen the tension on the strings before you clip them. Take off the trem arm. And then remove the pickguard and screws. Just a quick note, you need basic hand tools for this. Screwdriver, cutters, X-Acto knife is helpful. Soldering iron. Make sure you save the screws. Okay, lift off the pickguard, reveal the inside. This guy had a little bit of shielding on there, but it wasn't much. Pop off the knobs. Probably should have done this before I unscrewed the pickguard. Loosen the nuts on the pot. Save the nuts. Pop everything out. And there you go. Now, important to take a picture in case something becomes disconnected, or when you desolder something, you want to know how to put it back together. So that's an important step. Or make a schematic. Alright, I pull the wires through and the whole pickup assembly comes out. Flip it over. Desolder the ground rod wire. That thing needs a lot of heat because it's a big metal plate. And then clean the cavities. I use some compressed air, then I wipe the inside down with a little bit of alcohol just to make it clean, and so the adhesive sticks well. Alright, so no magic to this. I just cut strips and started laying them in. There's probably a better method, but I just went for it. And I made sure to overhang on the top so that it had a little lip, so when the pickguard goes down that I get a connection between the pickguard foil and the cavity foil. So basically I'm just feeling my way through it, stick it down, and then I trim the excess and just keep going until everything's covered. I'll speed up the video so you don't have to suffer through everything. Basically, you just want to make sure that the whole cavity is completely covered. And I carefully use the X-Acto to trim, making sure not to damage the finish on the guitar, even though it's pretty beat up. And then I'll cut some strips and I'll put it around the side walls. And I believe the adhesive on this is conductive as well, so as long as it's touching another piece of foil, you get connection. And that proved out when I used the continuity meter. Everything was fully connected. So I started pressing down the foil on the top of the cavity to kind of make a little template. Then I would scissor clip the shape and kind of give myself a little bit of a pattern. Alright, now I clear the wire hole before I forget where that is. And I cleaned up the edges. Now I'm doing the 1/4 inch connector cavity. So you see I made a little template for that. Trim the edges so that the sides fold up nice. Just press that in. Now work on the side walls. I basically just eyeballed how thick to make the piece and just kept trimming and sticking it in until it was completely covered. And again, made a little overhang on top. The connector plate thing has a small shoulder, so I didn't want to overhang too much so the copper wouldn't peek out underneath the shoulder. Okay, clear the wire hole on that side, and then start working on the pickup cavities. I laid the foil down on top of the pickup cavity and made my template. Push down. It's pretty straightforward. And just wrap the foil. If you have a bare spot, just put a little piece on it. I use the back side of the X-Acto knife to push everything in. I did the side walls. And make sure I bend it up over the top a little bit to help conduction to the pickguard, because the back of the pickguard we're going to cover with foil as well. Just doing a little cleanup over there. Okay, now I'm going to do a strip down the center. So I made a strip. Again, I just eyeballed it. And I think as long as we completely cover the inside, it doesn't have to be super pretty. It just has to be connected and covered. It's somewhat of a tedious process. This whole thing took me about 2 hours, I guess, from start to finish. Okay, so I'm doing the side walls here. Again, leave some overhang on the top. Side wall there. Fold over the top. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. Just keep going. Make sure everything's covered. Those cavities are pretty deep, so I wasn't too concerned about the pickup shorting or any wire shorting on that. The danger with shorting is in the 1/4-inch connector pocket and down by the volume pots. Alright. So a little touch up there, hitting more of the side walls. Okay, and clear out the hole. Alright, now the fun part, make sure there's continuity. And yes, it's buzzing. You can see as long as the copper is connected, folded over itself or touching, everything's connected, which is a good thing. That will not be connected because it's isolated right now. Alright, and do the same thing with the pickguard. I just cleaned it off and put some strips down and trimmed it with an X-Acto. That adhesive is pretty strong, so be careful where you stick it down on. It actually pulled up some of my mat when I pulled it up. And you could do a better job than me. I was kind of rushing just to get this video done. And again, just use as much as you like. It's thin stuff. There's no buildup that's going to cause any kind of issue. So if you have to overlay, that's fine. Now what I did, I put it on a piece of board and used the X-Acto to trim that thing up. And just be careful with the X-Acto knife if you're using a sharp X-Acto. Okay, and then cut out the pickup holes. So you're using the Pickguard as the template. Clear out the screw holes, clean it up, and you'll be good to go. Just want to clean the slots out, make sure everything's got a clear pass. Okay, now put everything back together. This was the fun part. Reinstall the pickups. Put it back exactly the way it went out. And the screws. Okay, put the knobs back in. Make sure you use the internal tooth washer on the inside. Put the switch in. Lock everything back up. Tighten the nuts just enough. Install the knobs. There you go. Now I'm checking continuity. Looks like the shield is now connected to the ground of everything, which is what we want. Okay, I'm gonna shield the back cover, even though I didn't shield the inside cavity of the back, because I figure, why do we need to? The inside of the pickup cavities are completely covered, so I'm not sure if it really needs it. I did this just for giggles. And that's it. Completed shielded assembly. Looks nice. And now we got to get ready to drop it back into the guitar body. Okay, so first I'm going to put that grounding wire back in. I had to put this soldering iron on hot setting just to melt that, because that's a big plate and it was hard to desolder that. Alright, I didn't put shielded wire in. I just twisted it and fed it through. Twisting helps a little bit with noise. Shielded wire would have been better, but I figured we're testing the shielding as its own thing, so we'll see how that works. Okay, resoldering 1/4 inch connector. Put it exactly back the same way you took it out. I have a little tweezer I use to hold the wire when I solder so I don't burn my fingers. Okay, reinstall that connector. Screw down the assembly with pickups. There was a wire pinched there, so I had to move that out of the way. Okay, checked everything seems to be connected with ground. Clean it up a little bit. Put the screws in. Alrighty. Lock down. Clean off some of the foil. Okay, now this was important. Found the 1/4 inch connector was shorting, so I put some electrical tape around that cavity to keep it from shorting. It was kind of intermittent, but I could see why, because the tip of the 1/4 inch jack was pushing that and hitting some of the ground shielding. So electrical tape fixed the trick, and here's our recording. So, did this work, and is it worth the effort? I would say yes. We went from about 2.5 dB on the meter to 0 dB. Not a very scientific test, but this was very absolute noise. Every 3 dB, you double or half the sound, so figure this is about a 43% reduction in noise, which is good, especially on an older guitar like this that had no shielding. And now I see that this is more directional noise. Before it was omni noise, where I got noise no matter where I stood. Now it seems to be more focused because you can't shield the front of the pickups. Noise is always going to come in here. So when I turn towards my amp, I hear more noise. As I move away, it's less. So we effectively block the back, top, and sides. So it's a little more controllable. Yeah, if you have a couple hours to spare and into arts and crafts, it's a lot of scissor cutting and placing the material in. If you're handy with a solder iron and can desolder, I'd say go for it. It's pretty easy, just time consuming. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe and like, and drop a comment. We'll do more stuff like this. Thanks for watching.